Hello Army, welcome back to my channel. Today we're diving into a genuinely fascinating story that's been circulating recently, one that takes us back several years to a decision Jimin made that, at the time, drew genuine criticism and confusion from people who couldn't understand his reasoning. But fast forward to today, and that same decision is looking less like a questionable choice and more like one of the smartest financial moves he's ever made. Let's break down exactly what happened, why people criticized him for it back then, and what's actually unfolding now that's completely changed the conversation around this particular purchase. So let's rewind all the way back to November 2018, because that's when this entire story actually begins. At just 22 years old, while BTS was already experiencing massive global success and financial windfall from their explosive rise to international stardom, Jimin made a real estate purchase that genuinely puzzled a lot of people watching from the outside. Rather than buying a brand new, move-in-ready luxury apartment, the kind of purchase you might expect from a young, wealthy celebrity looking to enjoy the fruits of sudden success, he instead purchased an old, rundown apartment complex called Banpo Jugon, located in the Banpo neighborhood of Seoul's Seocho district, right along the Han River. Let's talk about exactly what this property looked like at the time of purchase, because understanding just how unglamorous this choice appeared initially really helps set up the rest of this story. This wasn't some hidden gem dressed up as a fixer-upper. This was a genuinely old, deteriorating apartment complex, the kind of building that most people, especially a young celebrity with virtually unlimited options in one of the most competitive luxury real estate markets in the world, would have overlooked entirely in favor of something newer, flashier, and more immediately impressive. Let's think about the price tag involved in this purchase, because it gives us a clearer picture of exactly what he was buying into. He paid approximately $3.9 million, or around 4.08 billion Korean won, for a unit spanning roughly 140 square meters within this aging complex. Now, $3.9 million is obviously still a substantial sum of money by almost any measure, but within the context of Seoul's luxury real estate market, and especially compared to the kinds of properties his fellow BTS members were purchasing around this exact same time, this represented a genuinely different kind of investment strategy entirely. Let's compare this to what his bandmates were doing with their own real estate investments during this same general period, because the contrast really highlights just how unconventional his choice actually was. Around this same timeframe, other members were purchasing brand new, move-in-ready luxury units in some of Seoul's most exclusive, already established residential complexes, properties that came with immediate prestige, modern amenities, and none of the uncertainty that comes with buying into an aging building that hadn't yet undergone any kind of renovation or reconstruction process. Let's talk about exactly why people reacted with such confusion and criticism when this purchase first became public knowledge. From an outside perspective, without understanding the underlying strategy at play, this looked like a young celebrity making a genuinely puzzling financial decision, spending millions of dollars on what was essentially an old, deteriorating building, rather than securing something that would immediately reflect his newfound wealth and status. Public commentary at the time was largely critical, with many people struggling to understand why someone with his financial resources and options would choose this particular property over countless more obviously impressive alternatives. Let's dig into what he actually understood about this purchase that so many outside observers initially missed. Banpo Jugon wasn't simply an old, forgotten building with no future prospects. It was specifically part of what's known as a redevelopment complex, a property that had already been identified and designated for eventual reconstruction and modernization as part of a much larger urban renewal initiative within that specific district of Seoul. This particular redevelopment project has actually been described as one of the largest reconstruction efforts undertaken in Seoul in recent memory, with a total project cost estimated at around 10 trillion won. Let's think about what buying into a property like this, specifically because of its redevelopment status, actually means from an investment strategy perspective. When you purchase property within a designated redevelopment zone, you're essentially betting on the future value that will be created once that reconstruction process actually gets completed. Rather than paying premium prices for an already finished, modern luxury unit, you're paying based largely on the land value and the future reconstruction rights attached to that specific property, with the expectation that once the actual redevelopment work concludes, the resulting property will be worth significantly more than what you originally paid for that underlying land and those associated rights. Let's talk about why this specific investment strategy, while genuinely sound from a real estate perspective, tends to generate exactly this kind of public confusion and criticism when it involves a young celebrity rather than an experienced real estate investor. Most casual observers simply don't have deep familiarity with how redevelopment zone investments actually work, the specific mechanics of buying into land value and future reconstruction rights rather than an immediately finished product. Without that underlying context, a purchase like this one naturally looks confusing, or even financially unwise, especially when you're comparing it directly against the more immediately impressive, move-in-ready luxury purchases his bandmates were making around this same time. Let's fast forward now to where things actually stand today, because this is where the entire narrative around this purchase has genuinely shifted. That same banpo Jugong complex he purchased into back in 2018 is now in the process of being transformed into what's being described as a super luxury, high-standard condominium complex, complete with stunning Han River views and hotel-level amenities and services. This isn't simply a modest renovation or basic facelift. We're talking about a comprehensive, ground-up redevelopment project that's completely reimagining what this property looks like and represents within Seoul's broader luxury real estate landscape. Let's talk about the specific scale and ambition of this redevelopment project, because the details genuinely help illustrate just how significant this transformation actually is. The new complex is expected to reach 35 stories once construction concludes around 2027, representing this dramatic shift from the old, deteriorating building he originally purchased into, towards something that will stand as a genuinely impressive, ultra-modern addition to Seoul's skyline along one of its most prestigious residential corridors. Let's think about what this kind of comprehensive transformation typically does to property values within a redevelopment zone like this one. When an aging, deteriorating property complex gets fully reconstructed into a modern, luxury development, particularly one featuring premium amenities and desirable location advantages like direct river views, the resulting value increase compared to the original purchase price can be genuinely substantial, often representing multiples of what the original investment actually cost. Let's discuss the specific amenities and features being incorporated into this new development, because they genuinely paint a picture of just how far this project has evolved from that original, rundown building he purchased back in 2018. According to details that have circulated regarding this specific redevelopment project, the completed complex is expected to feature an impressive array of premium facilities. We're talking about an indoor ice rink, multiple indoor swimming pools including specialized pools for children, a comprehensive fitness center with jogging tracks connected to advanced body composition analysis technology, multiple saunas, a bowling alley, an indoor golf driving range, multiple tennis courts, a full indoor gym, indoor rock climbing facilities, a multi-purpose auditorium seating several hundred people, a premium movie theater, dedicated lounges, instrument practice rooms, personal studio spaces, and even amenities like a dedicated pet shower and grooming area. Let's really sit with the scale of that amenity list for a moment, because it genuinely illustrates just how far this project has moved beyond simply renovating an old apartment building into something resembling a comprehensive luxury resort experience built directly into a residential complex. This level of amenity investment represents exactly the kind of premium development that commands significantly elevated property values compared to standard residential construction, precisely because it offers residents this incredibly comprehensive, resort-style living experience without ever needing to leave their own building complex. Let's think about the broader financial implications of Jimin having purchased into this specific project at that particular price point back in 2018, before any of this redevelopment work had actually begun. Reports discussing this specific situation have suggested that, given the terms under which he originally acquired this property, essentially paying based on land value and future reconstruction rights rather than a finished product, he stands to potentially see returns of 3 times his original investment or more, once this redevelopment process fully concludes and the new luxury complex becomes operational. Let's talk about what this specific outcome tells us about the underlying wisdom of his original investment strategy, even though it initially drew genuine public criticism and confusion. This represents a classic example of value investing applied to real estate specifically, identifying an asset that appears unglamorous or even undesirable on the surface, but that carries significant underlying value potential based on factors that aren't immediately obvious to casual observers. Rather than chasing the most impressive, immediately gratifying purchase available, he instead made a calculated bet on future value creation, a strategy that required both genuine financial sophistication and considerable patience, given that this entire redevelopment timeline has spanned nearly a decade from initial purchase to eventual project completion. Let's think about what this kind of patient, long-term investment approach reveals about his broader financial thinking, separate from whatever specific real estate expertise might have informed this particular decision. Making an investment decision that you understand will likely draw public criticism and confusion in the short term, based on your own confidence in the underlying long-term value proposition, requires a genuine willingness to prioritize substance over immediate appearance, a quality that isn't always common among young celebrities suddenly navigating unprecedented levels of wealth and public scrutiny. Let's also touch on the broader context of how this specific story fits within the larger pattern of how BTS members have generally approached their individual financial decisions and investments throughout their careers. We've seen various members make different kinds of real estate and financial choices over the years, some prioritizing immediate luxury and prestige, others, like Jimin in this specific instance, prioritizing longer-term value creation potential even when that meant accepting a less immediately impressive starting point. This diversity of approaches genuinely reflects different individual philosophies and priorities among the members, even as they've all achieved similar levels of overall financial success throughout their careers together. Let's think about the broader significance of this story specifically resurfacing now, years after the original purchase and the initial wave of public criticism and confusion. As this redevelopment project has continued progressing toward its eventual 2027 completion date, and as more details about the specific luxury amenities and expected value increases have become publicly available, there's been this natural shift in how people discuss and understand this original 2018 purchase decision. What once looked like a confusing, potentially unwise choice now increasingly looks like a genuinely savvy piece of financial foresight, precisely because enough time has passed for the underlying investment thesis to actually play out and demonstrate its validity. Let's also spend some time discussing why this kind of story tends to resonate so strongly with people encountering it now, well beyond just dedicated BTS fans who might already be familiar with various details of the members' individual lives and decisions. There's something genuinely compelling about narratives involving someone facing initial skepticism or criticism for a decision that ultimately proves to be remarkably prescient, particularly when that decision required genuine patience and confidence and long-term thinking over immediate gratification or public approval. This kind of story taps into broader themes around vindication, patient strategic thinking, and the value of understanding underlying fundamentals rather than simply chasing surface-level appearances, themes that resonate well beyond any specific interest in K-pop or celebrity culture more broadly. Let's think about what this specific real estate story reveals about Jimin's broader financial acumen, particularly given that this represents just one example within what appears to be a more comprehensive approach to building long-term wealth and financial security. Beyond just this specific property investment, there's broader reporting suggesting a more general pattern of thoughtful financial planning and investment strategy, treating his substantial earnings from his music career not simply as resources for immediate luxury consumption, but as capital to be strategically deployed toward long-term wealth building and financial security. Let's also touch on the broader cultural context surrounding real estate speculation and investment within South Korea specifically, because understanding this context helps explain some of the initial criticism this purchase generated back in 2018. Real estate speculation carries particularly sensitive cultural and political connotations within South Korea, where housing affordability and property value increases have been genuinely significant social and political issues for extended periods. Purchases like this one, involving a young celebrity buying into a redevelopment zone specifically because of anticipated future value increases, can sometimes draw additional scrutiny within this broader cultural context, beyond just simple confusion about the underlying investment strategy itself. Let's think about how this specific story might continue to develop and generate additional attention as this redevelopment project continues progressing toward its eventual 2027 completion date. Given how much detailed information has already emerged regarding the specific luxury amenities and expected value transformation involved in this project, it's reasonable to expect continued coverage and discussion as construction progresses and as the eventual finished product becomes increasingly tangible and visible within Seoul's broader real estate landscape. Let's also spend some time discussing what this story might mean for how fans and observers more generally think about the broader financial sophistication and long-term thinking that exists behind the scenes of what often gets portrayed simply as glamorous celebrity lifestyle content. Stories like this one offer this genuinely interesting glimpse into the more substantive, strategic thinking that can exist behind decisions that might initially appear confusing or even questionable when viewed only through a surface-level, immediate gratification lens. Let's think about the broader narrative arc this entire story represents, from that initial 2018 purchase generating genuine public confusion and criticism, through years of patient waiting while the underlying redevelopment project gradually progressed, to this current moment where the wisdom of that original decision has become increasingly apparent as the actual transformation and value creation potential becomes tangible and quantifiable. This kind of extended narrative arc, spanning nearly a decade from initial decision to eventual vindication, offers this genuinely satisfying example of patient, strategic thinking ultimately proving its worth over time. Let's also touch on what this specific story might suggest about broader lessons around investment strategy and long-term thinking more generally, extending well beyond just this specific real estate context or Jimin's individual financial decisions. There's something genuinely instructive about witnessing a decision that required accepting short-term criticism and confusion in service of a longer-term value creation strategy, particularly when that strategy required genuine patience and confidence in underlying fundamentals rather than simply chasing whatever might generate the most immediate positive public perception or validation. Let's wrap up by recapping everything we've discussed today regarding this genuinely fascinating real estate story. Back in November 2018, at just 22 years old, Jimin purchased an old, deteriorating apartment complex called Banpo Jugon for approximately $3.9 million, a decision that drew genuine public confusion and criticism at the time, particularly compared to the more immediately impressive luxury purchases his bandmates were making during this same general period. What wasn't immediately obvious to outside observers was that this property was specifically part of a designated redevelopment zone, meaning the purchase price largely reflected land value and future reconstruction rights rather than an immediately finished luxury product. Fast forward to today, and that same complex is now undergoing a comprehensive transformation into a 35-story super-luxury condominium development, complete with an extraordinary array of premium amenities and stunning Han River views, expected to reach completion around 2027. Given the terms of his original purchase, reports suggest he stands to potentially see returns of 3 times his original investment or more, once this redevelopment process fully concludes. This entire story really does illustrate something genuinely compelling about the value of patient, strategic thinking, even when that thinking initially draws public confusion or criticism, and about the underlying financial sophistication that can exist behind decisions that might otherwise simply be dismissed as confusing or questionable when viewed only through a surface-level lens. It's exactly this kind of story that reminds us there's often considerably more strategic thinking happening behind the scenes of these individual celebrity decisions than casual public commentary might initially assume. Thank you so much for watching this video all the way through. If you enjoyed this breakdown of Jimin's real estate journey and this genuinely fascinating example of long-term investment thinking paying off, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an update like this one in the future. Drop a comment down below letting me know what you think about this story, and whether you think this kind of patient, strategic investment approach reflects broader financial wisdom that extends well beyond just this specific real estate context. As always, thank you for being here, thank you for your continued support, and I'll see you in the next video.